Hello and welcome again to The Public Interest. This is a program by the Ministry of the Presidency that provides the media with an opportunity to interact with the President. As always, we have with us Guyana's Head of State, President David Granger. Welcome again, sir.
Thank you, Vindy.
And from the Guyana Chronicle, we have Rabindra Rooplall and the lovely Stacy Carmichael from the NewsRoom. Welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I'm going to start today's program with the first question. On Monday, Guyana received a very generous donation from the People's Liberation Army. You were there, and China has been a good bilateral partner to Guyana over the last 40-odd years. I believe this donation consisted of some 31 pieces of equipment. How are these going to be used?
Essentially, well, I'd like to join you in saying that China has been a good partner. And here the People's Liberation Army has given direct support to the Guyana Defense Force. It is for development. We feel that the Defense Force has a twin responsibility, not only defense but also development. And as you can see from the papers, there's no secret there. We didn't ask for armored cars and tanks and guns. We asked for equipment which could contribute to the infrastructure development of the country. Year before the last, I announced that the Army's role, in addition to its defense duties, would be to contribute to the physical infrastructural development of the country. So the equipment, in a nutshell, is to be used for building bridges, building highways, and helping Guyanese to move about their country more easily than at present. Our longest river, Essequibo River, 1,000 kilometers, we don't have a single bridge. I hope to make a difference to the ease with which Guyanese could move about the country, particularly from east to west and eventually from north to south.
A follow-up, sir. Going back to strong bilateral partners, Guyana's had quite a lot. Just like 2 weeks or so, you presented the Sword of Honor to an officer from the Belize Defense Force who topped the SOC number 49 course. And then last week Friday, we welcomed the military attaché, a new military attaché from Brazil. And then this donation on Monday. I'm saying all of this to ask, how do you see the strength, so to speak, or the importance of these military and diplomatic relations with other countries?
Well, these are expressions of what I call defense diplomacy. We've been training officers from the Belizean Defense Force for over 35 years. In fact, the last time I was in Belize, I met a cabinet minister who had been trained in the Guyana Defense Force Officer Cadet School. So that's a very important aspect of our solidarity with the rest of the Caribbean. Belize has a very serious territorial claim against it. And among the Caribbean states, we try to cooperate and collaborate as much as possible. As you know, 7 years ago, there was a very severe hurricane in Grenada, and our defense force under Brigadier Lovell went there and built houses and did a lot of work. With Brazil also, well, I myself was trained in Brazil, so that is a memory that I have. But it may not be known that the Brazilian army has done a lot of work in the Rupununi, particularly during El Nino. And Brazilian army has instructors at our officer cadet school and our jungle warfare school. So Brazil has not only been a neighbor, it's also been a friend. And the contribution they've made has not only been in the defense field, it's also been in the development field. So all in all, I think these three examples that you mentioned are not only examples of defense diplomacy, but they're examples of our commitment to develop Guyana's infrastructure as well.
Thank you, sir. Rabindra.
Mr. President, have you received a formal response from the Attorney General pertaining to the issue with Justice Frank Holder?
I have received a response, and not a written response. I did get a formal question from the Chancellor, and I spoke with him, and he will give me it in writing. But he explained what occurred, which is quite different from what some elements of the media have reported. And I'm satisfied that the matter will be resolved very soon. But you can say, yes, I have received a formal response, not a written response. Everything he tells me is formal.
Okay, good morning, Mr. President, again.
Morning.
In terms, we have just completed the first quarter of 2017. Could you say what are your views on the performance of your administration thus far in terms of the economy, and what can Guyanese expect come the rest of 2017 in terms of economic development?
Well, the public will judge. I have already expressed my views on the performance of the cabinet. Apart from some internal changes, I have not removed anyone from the cabinet. I have not brought in any new persons. The changes have been explained, for example, the appointment of Mrs. Hughes to be Minister of Public Telecommunications, the appointment of Dr. Norton as Minister of Social Cohesion, appointment of Mrs. Valda Lawrence as Minister of Public Health. The performance of the cabinet has to be measured in the context of what we inherited in May 2015. And as I said before, I think the performance has been quite good. I have not had to effect any dismissals, and the adjustments we've made have actually improved the performance of the cabinet in some areas which I myself admit we did not pay enough attention. For example, natural resources. When we got him, we did not expect that the discovery of petroleum would be so massive. And therefore, I've had to ask Minister Trotman to pay particular attention to that field, and I've removed the environment from under him. And in the case of public telecommunications, you know, we're in an information age, and we have had to make some changes in the information and communication technology area. And I think those moves have been for the good of the cabinet. What can we expect? We will continue to overcome the obstacles that face us. We have severe obstacles in the sugar industry. We have obstacles in telecommunication. We have obstacles in infrastructure. These are very important areas that we have to tackle. We have obstacles in the field of education and public health. So these are not faults or errors of governance that came about over the last year or two. These are historical faults. I'm not trying to blame the other administration, but these are matters that we are dealing with. The education situation is critical. We know that we have to strengthen teaching at the primary level to get more students passing at National Grade 6. We have to strengthen the system for distribution of pharmaceuticals in public health. We have to remove the problems of bottlenecks and also the problems of incompetence and corruption. These are historical problems which we're dealing with. I expect that by 2018 the situation would have improved, and the public will start to see the benefits of the changes that we're making in these various ministerial sectors.
Thank you.
Mr. President, with the swearing in of the mayors recently, which township do you consider needs more investment for the development?
Well, as you know, we created 3 new towns, Mabruma, Bartica, and Lethem. I would say that all of them need development. Mabruma is well laid out, parts of it are well laid out, and we have severe problems in the roads and electricity. There's no bank in Mabruma, and Mabruma is the capital town for a region which is bigger than Trinidad and Tobago, and 4 times the size of Trinidad and Tobago. Lethem, again, is a very wide straggling area, and it is the point of contact, a port of entry from Brazil. Madia is not yet a town, and again, it's a major gold mining area, and transportation is very difficult. Bartica is perhaps best laid out, and I would say they were best suited to trigger this thrust towards a green state. I would say off the top of my head, I would like to see much more development in Mabruma, and I would like to see Mahdi declared a town. All in all, I would say the performance has been very encouraging. I went to New Amsterdam Town Day last year, and I saw the mayors of of Linden, Georgetown, and Bartica. Even the mayors have formed a sort of informal club to help one another with ideas and to cooperate. So I like what I see. I think the injection of democracy in the local government system by having local government elections last year was good, and I repeatedly warned mayors that they're up for re-election next year. The whole municipality will be up for re-election, so I asked them to engage the constituents, solve problems, and display a greater sense of transparency and responsibility to the constituents. And I expect that I'm sure, I have not been able to see all of the municipalities. I must admit that the municipalities under a certain political party seem very reluctant, even to pay me the simple courtesies of attending when I visit these places. Some regional chairmen, they won't come out to see me, Yeah, it's strange, particularly Region 2. The region chairman has never really come out, in municipalities, you go there, the mayor wouldn't show up. The minister of communities would have a conference and the mayors wouldn't show up. There's a lot of resistance taking place in the municipalities, and this is damaging the quality of local government, because I explained that governance must be seen at 3 levels. The national level, that is the level of the ministers, and the regional level, and the municipal level. If the 3 don't work together, there'll be not only discontinuities, but in some cases resistance. And this is what is affecting the local government system. So in measuring the performance of the municipalities, I think there must be a greater appreciation on the part of the mayors themselves that they're not serving their political parties. They're serving the people of Guyana living in that whole municipal area. And I think this is an intellectual hurdle that some of the mayors have to, and regional chairmen have to overcome. It is damaging local government, and that spirit of resistance that we're seeing now. It's really causing hurt.
Yes. Mr. Granger, the deputy commissioners of police, they have not been sworn in as yet. As the head of state, do you have any concerns of the time being taken for this to occur, given the importance of the Guyana police force in security?
Yes, I'm aware of the problems. I would like to see, the police force properly staffed, and I will consult with the Minister of Public Security to see what recommendations he has made. But there are problems in the police force. The police force was very badly damaged during the Troubles, and we have received some complaints. I am dissatisfied with some areas of performance, particularly in the area of counter-narcotics work. We've had some, I would say, grave concerns, the landing of a plane in the Rupununi, Yupukari, and the discovery of a semi-submersible vessel in the ocean. These are grave faults. Other criticism we made. I set up a National Security Council. I've set up a National Intelligence and Security Agency, and I've set up a National Anti-Narcotics Agency. Those 3 agencies have been set up over the last 2 years. So they all have an impact on the crime situation, and the performance of the police force has an impact on the crime situation as well. And we have some more distance to cover, but in due course we'll make sure that these positions are filled. But I'm not in a hurry to fill positions without, I don't want to put on the labels on the bottles without making sure that the contents are really up to the required standard. So let us rectify the problems, then we'll make the appointments. That is my approach.
Mr. President, what is the plan to address the issues surrounding VAT on private education, since there is yet talks to be held? What's your opinion on it?
The cabinet is the the executive agency where plans are made. And these matters had to be discussed, or they were discussed at Cabinet before they were put in the budget and went to the National Assembly. So this is nothing new. We have explained that we had to widen the tax base. There was widespread tax evasion. We need to collect taxation from more people. That's how governments work, you know. They get their revenue mainly from taxes, and once you see there's massive evasion at the level of customs or massive non-compliance, it means that the government's work will be hampered. So we explained that the need for widening the tax base actually we reduce VAT, we reduce VAT, and some areas that were not covered by VAT were brought into the net. So we have given the teachers the assurance, or the school operators the assurance, that the question of VAT on privately operated schools will be reviewed in the next budget. But this is not something that's going to happen next week or next month. So right now, we need the revenue, and we need to ensure that the tax base is widened. It is not a punitive measure. Everybody pays taxes. We have to run the Sale Potter College of Education. We have to find $30 billion for education countrywide, and the money comes from taxation. So we're just asking people to be more patient, more tolerant. We have committed to review it, and I would like to see it lower. But what I don't want to see is people bringing 4- and 5-year-old children on the street, encouraging them to protest in matters which they don't comprehend. What is the point in that? What are they trying to prove? Why bring children on the street? They don't understand why they're being mobilized. They're training children to hate. Is that what the purpose of the protest is? So let us be more reasonable. Let us understand why the measures were put in place, and let us accept that the government is committed to review the measures in the next budget.
Sir, if I may, the Foreign Affairs Ministry is currently hosting the Heads of Missions conference. You addressed those diplomatic representatives on Monday, and you said you charged them to pursue national interests at the level of the citizen, at the level of the country, and at the level of the regional and international community. My question, sir, is how important is the work of Guyana's foreign missions to economic development and sovereignty?
Well, I would answer by referring you to the first question you asked me. I mean, how is it that we got over $1 billion from the People's Republic of China? That is the work of our diplomats. It is difficult to operate without a foreign service in the international community. We have to relate, we have to protect our citizens wherever they are, if they're in the diaspora in Bahamas or Brooklyn or Queens or wherever. So citizenship is important. At the same time, as you know, people have been abusing citizenship. Illegal aliens, people have been trying to come to Guyana in order to go to other countries. So citizenship is important, and we want to make sure that wherever Guyanese are, they know that the state is going to look after them. As far as the country is concerned, when we speak of the national interest, we mean that the diplomats or foreign service officers must go out to the places where they are stationed and sell rice, sell rum, sell timber, sell Guyana as a tourist destination, bring in investors. So at the country level, we want to see a very active foreign service. And at the community level, we want to see a stronger Caribbean, a stronger CSME. We want to ensure that our interests are protected by having a network of friends in UNASUR, in the OAS, in Mercosur, in CELAC, all these organizations to which we belong. So at all three levels, we know that the Foreign Service has an important role to play. The conference is very important in making sure that people are singing from the same song sheet. And I'm very glad that it is taking place, because many of the diplomats are, especially at the senior level, ambassadorial or representative level, are there for the first time as diplomats. And we hope that they help to stabilize the situation in the Foreign Service. As you know, in the previous administration, some people had been in one place for about 17 or 18 years and had lost their effectiveness. So we are in the process of transforming the Foreign Service, and this conference is very important in moving us from where we are to where we want to be. I would say it's transitional, but at the same time, it is placing a greater focus on economic diplomacy to make sure we sell more stuff.
And in the past 8 months, because most of these ambassadors are new, in the past 8 months, would you say that you're pleased with the steps they have taken to meet those objectives that you've outlined?
More can be done in selling Guyanese products. As I said, you know, rum, rice, timber, bauxite. We have to keep searching for markets. We have occupied most of the traditional stations: India, China, United Kingdom, America, Canada. But we've also added Trinidad and Tobago because of our thrust into the Caribbean. And we're thinking of opening new consulates so that our citizens, particularly those in the diaspora, we have a large diaspora in eastern Venezuela, we have part in western Suriname, we have a part in northern Brazil, and of course the Caribbean islands. We want to improve our consular services, but of course there's a financial cost to bear. We need to complete the work on our Foreign Service Institute so that younger diplomats can be trained. And I expect in another couple of years things will be much better. But I am very happy with this, with the work that they've done so far. And again, the thrust is towards economic diplomacy. That's a primary national interest for me, you know, selling more Guyanese products.
Thank you, sir. Stacy.
Yes, Mr. Granger, the Guyana Press Association recently issued a release raising some concerns about the alleged or the seemingly interference by Minister of Communities Ronald Bulkan in the state media's editorial content. As an advocate of press freedom, do you have any concerns with any attempts by members of your cabinet to quote-unquote interfere with the content in the state media in some way or influence?
If you're referring to a letter by the Minister of Communities, yes. I don't regard it as interference. I mean, apart from being a minister, he's a private citizen and he expressed concerns. I don't think he attempted to coerce or to use his ministerial influence to change what I could regard as the editorial right to publish an article or to publish news stories. I don't think there was any interference at all. He wrote a letter like anybody else could write a letter, and I think that the reaction by the GPA, I don't know if the whole GPA met to consider that or if it is just the work of a few persons, but I believe that the action might be, not in accordance with I've seen worse letters by other people, and the fact that they came from a minister does not constitute interference. If he'd gone into the newsroom and ordered changes to be made, that's a different matter. But I don't support the view that the action by the GPA was justified in the circumstances. But the GPA is free to right to do what they want. But I have no fault with what Mr. Bulkan said. In fact, I agree with what he wrote. I think sometimes, very important national events occur, and some newspapers, publish stories or ignore stories completely. Sometimes they don't cover important stories. But we're talking about human beings. We're talking about biases. People have to, people make decisions, make choices, and they decide what is to be published. But as far as the matter you're raising is concerned, the minister did not decide that something should or should not be published. He expressed an opinion on what had already been published.
Rabindra.
Mr. President, if there is a high rate of recidivism of prisoners, is there any plan of the government where training of inmates who are convicted could be done in a manner which, when they are out of prison, they can actually get jobs? Because a lot of them are complaining that after they're out of prison, nobody wants to hire them. And so they're falling back the rut and the cycle, and they end up back in prison and so forth.
Yes, after the March riots in 2016, I visited the Mazruni prison, which is our largest prison, with the Minister of Public Security, and we examined the workshop in Mazruni, and we felt that that would be the site for training prisoners. It is difficult to try to track them down after they've left the system. And I think both the minister and I agreed that the training could be done there in the period prior to their release. We need to, well, security is one issue because of the persons who had caused the riot in the Georgetown prison. But yes, there is a plan to improve and expand the training facilities at Mazruni so that the pre-release training school or training would take place there. And then they can come out on the street being equipped for employment. Part of the problem is the actual qualification, not necessarily the punishment which they receive, but the fact is, are they qualified to be masons, joiners, whatever it is. And I have been very impressed with the performance of some persons who have been in other institutions, women prisoners particularly, to be serious about work and to go back into society with their skills and live a straight life. So I don't like building more prisons. I prefer building more workshops and more schools. That's what I said in the case when I first came in. I said I don't want to see young people in jail. I want to see them in school. And what you're saying is exactly what I would like to see. But I would feel that it would be more prudent to have the training while they're still in the system than outside the system. When they get out of the system, it's difficult to control them.
I think we have time for one.
Stick a pin. It's important you raise that because it costs, I think, about $300,000 to keep a prisoner.
Annually?
Yes. So, I mean, I don't want to have more prisoners. I'd like to, while they're enjoying the clothing and shelter and the food from the state, maybe get them, it's a form of schooling for them. Okay.
Stacy, you get the last question.
Yes, before we close off, Mr. Granger, there was a recent incident at the West Demerara Regional Hospital where I think a premature baby died, and the family is alleging that a porter was the one who went into the baby's nursery and was able to turn up the oxygen. Now, police investigations are ongoing, and there is also news of another incident at the said hospital where a man pretended to be a surgeon because he carries the same name and was engaging in some form of fraudulent activities. Could you share your thoughts if any of these allegations are true? What are some of the concerns you would have with what is going on in terms of management at the hospital?
Well, my instructions to the Minister of Public Health is that whenever we have complaints or allegations about pharmaceuticals or malpractice, these things should be formally investigated. And as you said, the investigation is going on. I wouldn't like to pronounce on them until I'm given the evidence or the outcome of those investigations. So let's wait and see what the Minister has to say and the police.
All right, that's all the time we have this week. Thank you, sir, for bringing here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy, and thank you, Rabindra. It's nice having you this week. And thank you, viewers, for watching. You'll join us again next time.